Hey everyone, this is Joe Zija, and you're listening to the Kasanova Podcast.
The Kasanova Podcast, the number one podcast in Hawaii, is brought to you by these contributors on Patreon. If you'd like to see more content like this more often, as well as more podcast reviews, impressions, early access releases, live streams, and original content, then consider becoming a patron today. All right, and welcome everyone to another episode of Hawaii's number one podcast, the Kasanova Podcast. I'm your host, Mekel Kasanova. I'm coming at you with another phenomenal interview. In today's episode, I have the honor and privilege of interviewing a fellow podcaster, content creator, and Nintendo sage, the one, the only, Bobby, the Nintendo Guru. Now, Bobby is a content creator. He's a podcaster. He's making such phenomenal content both on YouTube and in the podcasting realms. And if you haven't heard of him, I don't know what you're doing with your life. You need to go and check out his content. He's just some of the most amazing podcasts I've ever heard, with If We Ran Nintendo, with his co-hosts, and so much more. So you're ready to do it. I'm ready to do it. Let's go ahead and welcome Bobby onto the show. All right, and welcome everyone to another episode of Hawaii's number one podcast, the Kasanova Podcast. I'm your host, Mekel Kasanova. I'm coming at you with another phenomenal interview because I have the honor and the privilege of having the one, the only, Bobby, the Nintendo Guru. Bobby, go ahead and introduce yourself, man. It's an honor to have you on.
Man, you have a low level of expectations if it's an honor to have me. But thank you very much for that. I appreciate that, Mekel. It's cool, man. We weren't connecting for a while, and I think a lot of it was I kept thinking to myself like, oh, I missed the date. Because the time zones, man, you're over there in Hawaii 5-0, and I'm just like, what is happening right now? So, so this is a couple weeks happening, and I have Devin Cox to thank for this. I don't know why anybody in this world would listen to anything that Devin says, but apparently there are a few people that do, and I think you're going to live and regret this by the end of the day. So.
Oh man, I feel like every show I've been on with someone that knows Devin, they're always roasting him. I'm like, what did you do, man?
I love Devin, dude. He's a good guy, man. He's one of the best. So I can't, I joke and I mess, but you got to give it to him when you get a chance.
Yes, so true. Oh man, so go ahead and plug your social media. Any upcoming projects that you're working on.
Yeah,
all your outlets, man. Let people know where to find you.
I started out doing YouTube. I do YouTube. My channel over there is Nintendo Guru. Then I have a multitude of podcasts that I do. I have If We Ran Nintendo. I do it with my buddy Sean. I do another one called Nintendo Talk that I do with my buddy Toby. And then we're actually probably the biggest thing we're getting ready to do, Sean and I, is we are going to do Extra Life this year. And it's the first time I've ever done it. Sean did it a few years ago, and I've always been talking about wanting to do it, but I've just never figured out how to do it. So this year we partnered with friends of ours called Phoenix Overdrive. Mm-hmm. Sean and I will be going to Rome, New York, to actually stream for 24 hours with these guys. Wow. And play games and all that stuff. And it's pretty amazing stuff. They're giving away like a Switch. They're giving away an Xbox. Sean has a skateboard that's signed by Phil Spencer. So like there's all kinds of stuff we're giving away, and it's all for a good cause. So that's probably the biggest and the coolest thing that I'm doing at the moment.
Cool. And where all can people find you? They can find you on YouTube.
YouTube, Twitter, Instagram at Nintendo Gurus. I'm pretty much over NintendoGuru.com. I got Patreon. You can find me just by searching Yumi Capri over there. So we're all over the place.
Definitely. And man, let's go ahead and give a background on yourself. Like, how'd you get started? What's the history? What's the story? What's the story to the legend? Come on.
Okay. So I started probably right about 4 years ago now, give or take. And I started by doing YouTube. I backed into the whole podcasting thing. I wanted to do podcasts. I had no clue how to even begin. Didn't know how to record. I didn't know what an RSS feed was. I didn't know any of that. So what happened was my wife kept telling me, like, she was doing YouTube at the time. I'm no longer married anymore. But at the time when I was married, she kept telling me, like, hey, you should do YouTube. I'm doing it. You should do it. You'd be good at it. And I was just like, I don't know. So then I started YouTubing and making content. And I've hooked up with a couple of people. They actually asked me to come on and do a podcast with them. And that was the start. So I really got the bug doing it that way. And then slowly but surely, just everything started to open up over the past 4 years. And, I love podcasting. It's probably one of my favorite things to do above everything. Like, I like streaming and I like making video content. I love to make YouTube videos, but the time you put in and what you get out of it is a little more difficult, than podcasting. Podcasting is just you hang out with some friends, you record some content, and then you put it up. And, whatever sticks goes. It is what it is. But it's just a lot of fun, man. So I've been doing that for, like I said, 4 years, and I've been loving every minute of it.
Well, I mean, the one thing about YouTube, I mean, if you're doing clickbait, then that return on investment is real quick.
Well, yeah, I don't like to do that. I hate doing clickbait stuff. Like, I try to be, like, I try to give what I like to check out. You know what I mean? And so for me, nothing bothers me more than if I click on something and it's just nonsense. Yeah. On anything you click on today that's political, it's all clickbait.
Yeah.
It's all like so-and-so blasted this one. And then you go watch it. It's like, what? They didn't even do anything. Right. They're just talking to them. What are you talking about? Or this one gets roasted and it's like, you go check it out. It's like, they didn't say a word to him. Like, there was nothing even said. Or they'll take, like, an example. They'll take, like, Donald Trump and AOC and Trump blasts AOC, right? And then all you do, you see a clip of Trump and you see a clip of AOC. They don't even interact. They don't even talk to each other. Nothing even involves them to it. It's like, the heck did I just watch? Just nothing's even happening. So, unfortunately, that's what happens on YouTube a lot of times. So I try to avoid doing that. I want people to come to kind of, when you read the title, you're going to kind of get a feel for what you're going to watch. So, that's pretty much what I try to do.
No, and I respect that, because that's definitely one of the things that I attribute my channel to as well, because it's too much of it, and on one of my streams I was doing recently, I was streaming Ni no Kuni for the Switch, and I was so upset because I'll just throw a name out there and I could probably edit it out later, but Nintendo enthusiasts, they put out this scathing video about Ni no Kuni on the Switch, saying how it's buggy, it doesn't run, all these issues with it. And that single video alone had so many people, like, either canceling their pre-order or not wanting to buy the game. And so when I started streaming it and my wife started streaming it, because we got our review codes, the next thing, like, constantly people were like, hey, are there any bugs in it? Is something wrong with it? Like, we got a lot of traffic because of that video. And then what's funny is they're the only ones that apparently had this issue, and then had to put in a retraction video for that statement. It's like, my whole, it's the original video had all this clickbait on it, and I'm like, just thinking to myself, why is this necessary? One of the things I said on my stream, and I'm infamous for having just really raw talk sometimes about different topics, and I ended up saying, like, why is it that we as content creators and YouTubers, like, why is it that, clickbait has become the norm, putting out false information, when we used to roast journalists for not being able to beat the introductory level of Cuphead or be able to actually know and talk about games, and we've become the very thing, well, not all of us, but, it's just,
No, but a good portion of it is just about the clicks and hot takes and nonsense. Like it's give me people that I watch to do hot takes or pile on videos, and it's like, man, can't you give a different perspective? Like, why? What is the need to bash something or someone because you don't have anything to say, or you're just afraid to be positive about something, you know? And we talked about it just briefly for a second. We thought we said we'd bring it up, but GameStop is notorious for it. GameStop gets hammered, no matter what they do. Doesn't matter what they do, good, bad, indifferent. They get crushed for things, and people want to sit there, right? And they want to attack GameStop for like, oh, trading values are garbage, and they hound you to do pre-orders, and they are constantly pushing used games. Like, a lot of people, I feel like, that say things don't understand how business works. It makes sense that they get a bigger, they make more money off of selling a used game than a brand new game. So why wouldn't you look at it and go like, hey man, do you want to buy this used game? You can save $5, whatever it is. Or do you want to buy the new one? You know, and it's just like, why do we have to like, you could go on YouTube, right? And you could watch a massive amount of people that are just hammering GameStop. And a lot of them are duplicate videos. A lot of them I think are BS. Like, you watch the videos and it's like they're talking about these stories of things that happen. It's like, first off, I can't even imagine that some of this stuff happens. Second off, don't act like you're a badass all of a sudden because you're talking on a microphone later. Half the stuff you say you said, you never said. Like, please, like, save the nonsense, man. So I just feel like what's going to wind up happening is GameStop is going to disappear. And then, kind of like Toys R Us, all you're going to get is days and days and days of all these people so upset that it's gone. And it's like, right now is your opportunity to stop it. And I'm not saying go overpay for things at all. That's not what I'm saying at all. But, man, stop the negativity. Stop trashing them. And just, if you have the opportunity to go buy from them, go buy from them. Sometimes they have some really good deals. Like, I literally, this is the truth, just yesterday, I picked up the final 2 colors of the Switch Lite. I bought the yellow one from Best Buy, and I picked up the gray and the blue one from Best Buy, or I mean from GameStop. They were offering a deal yesterday that if you traded in an iPad Pro, and you now they were going to give me $165 for the iPad Pro, right? It's a Gen 1, it's old, right? But I don't use it anymore. It's like whatever. So I was like, well, they're going to give me money right now. Why not? When you applied it to a Nintendo product, it immediately jumped to $300, right? So I literally went, and then my buddy had an Elite card, so he's an Elite member. They gave me $340 for the iPad, and I picked up 2 extra Switches for $60. So I'm like, this is nuts. Like,
it is.
What, I mean, like, so when you look at that, it's like, this isn't, not everything is bad. Not everything is great, don't get me wrong, but not everything is bad. And it's like, can we just stop with the negativity? Like, enough. Just enough's enough.
Yeah, and that's the other thing, too, is like, when you know, okay, I used to work for GameStop. I worked for GameStop for years, like, way back in the day, like, about a decade ago. And when I worked there, you know, I had no issues with it. It was fun. I mean, yeah, they pushed, you know, you're told to push pre-orders, but it's like in any job in retail, you're told to push something. And I don't understand this idea that people are like, oh, you know, GameStop's the worst. I'm like, if you go into Best Buy, what are they always pushing? Credit cards, you know, the My Rewards, you know. Insurance
policies, always with Best Buy. I used to work at Best Buy. The same thing would happen.
Me too.
Every day they do these meetings in the beginning of the day and at the end of the day. And at the beginning of the day, it was, hey, remember to push this or push this, or we're trying to get this out the door. Like, we would have meetings like, hey, man, listen, I remember, this is no lie, but I mean, this is probably 15, 20 years ago. I worked at Best Buy, but they said, hey, we're going to do, the Beatles are putting out a #1 album. It's all their #1 hits, right? But it's so cheap we're going to put it towards the back of the store. We don't want people to just walk in and pick this thing up because it's so cheap. We're not making money off it. Our thought pattern is it's so cheap. Get people in the store and then try to get them to buy some other stuff.
Yeah.
So if they come in and they ask for that, they had the Beatles album with all kinds of other Beatles stuff around it. So that way they might pick up a second Beatles album, or they might pick up a John Lennon album, or whatever it might be. And but that's what all businesses do. When I was 15 years old, I used to work at McDonald's, and they used to tell you to do suggestive selling. So if you came in and you ordered a cheeseburger, right? And it was like, do you want a drink with that? Or whatever. Like, it's suggestive selling. Every place you work, any successful place you work, has suggestive selling. It's just what they do. It's, and everybody's different. Now, maybe GameStop's just more aggressive. Maybe they push it a little bit harder. It is what it is. That's what they need, though. Their return on investment on a brand new game is so small. It makes sense for them to do. And my thing too is, if you don't like the trade-in values they give you, then go to eBay. You put in the work. You go sell your stuff. Like, it's not that easy out there. You know what I mean? So, what can you do?
It's funny too. It's like, I love that you bring up the Best Buy, because I feel like you and I could talk about Best Buy stories all day. It's so funny because people really don't understand. Like, I remember when I used to work at Best Buy like years ago, it was always like you said, top of the morning, they had the meeting before the store opens. This is how many credit cards we need to push. This is how many, we need this much in PCHO. We need this much in home theater. We need this much in cell phones. We need so many activations. And it's like, people don't get it. Every company is like this. And even with the whole, I remember they used to have the Gamers Club Unlocked. A lot of people, I remember a lot of YouTubers were like just shilling hard for Best Buy, and I would always tell people, like, yeah, it's great, but guess what? It's a gateway to get you in the store.
Yes, that's all it is. That's all it is. It's all it. Because I even said it to a buddy of mine. I was like, I don't understand. How can they sell me this game, right? I pre-order it. They give me $10 off. Then they immediately give me a $10 coupon. What? He goes, what they did was they eliminated their third-party company that used to do all these surveys and get all this information off of you. You basically signed up with them. They know exactly. They're doing the data mining right off the jump. They know exactly what you want, what you like, all that stuff. And then they're pushing it at you. And then they give you this off because they know that's the money they basically saved by eliminating that third-party company. They're still saving more money on top of that. And by the way, they know that when you walk in the door, you're not just going to buy that game. You're going to buy other stuff too. So that's, it's all a gimmick, man.
It really is. And it's sad how, we have all these YouTubers and I hate bashing other YouTubers. Actually, that's a lie. I call bullshit. I call shit out when I see bullshit. I call it. And it's just, I see so much of it, and people are like, oh, I can't wait for GameStop to die. I can't wait for them to go out of business. I'm like, yeah, so people who work there, who are trying to either pay for college or support their families, to not have a job and have to collect unemployment if they can get that, if they don't have to fight the company. And it just makes no sense. And it's like, what are these? And the most hypocritical thing to me is the people that are so anti-GameStop, but they're collectors. I'm like, okay, what are you going to do? Because with GameStop is literally one of the last bastions before we go to an all-digital future, with the exception of Nintendo. Nintendo is the one who, Nintendo is all about toys. And I think a lot of people don't understand that. Like, I remember people were bashing the Labo and all this other stuff. And it's like, the company's like 180 years, 150 years old. They've always sold toys.
Yeah.
But
but here's the thing, right? So you get rid of GameStop. Where do you buy most of your collector's editions at? Where do you buy your toys? Where do you buy the things like that? Toys R Us is done.
Yeah.
Walmart really doesn't have a good selection. Walmart, you can't really get collector's editions most of the time from them. Amazon and Best Buy have collector's editions, but even Target, getting collector's editions from them is very difficult. So it's like eliminating these. Like, I don't buy from one company. I buy from multiple companies.
Yeah.
I buy some stuff from Target, some stuff from Amazon. So, like, I literally got 3 Switches, a bunch of Amiibo, and the collector's edition of Link's Awakening yesterday, right? Or Friday. And I got the collector's edition from Amazon, 1 Switch from Best Buy, the 4 Amiibo Best Buy, and then the other 2 Switches from GameStop. And that's just ultimately what I do. I don't ever, because my thing is the more places there are for me to buy from, the better it is for me. The easier it is for me to get stuff. And that's what you want. Ultimately, you want to be able to get stuff. You don't want to jump through hoops to get it. So,
it's just like you think about, like, I'm not sure if you're into wrestling, but if you look at
oh yeah,
look at wrestling. When WCW went out of business, that was terrible for all of wrestling.
Oh yeah, man,
it's terrible. Having one promotion and just it
wasn't at first. See, that's the thing. It wasn't at first, but then as time goes on, it becomes slowly but surely worse. And now we're at a position where there's a good potential of it coming back around and being big. And it's no different than anything else. When competition breeds creativity. Competition breeds a better product for the customer. So as long as there's GameStops and Best Buys and Walmart and Amazon all competing against each other, we win. Yeah. The minute you start to eliminate one by one, all of a sudden, because think about it, right? So people stopped buying from GameStop for a long time. They stopped pre-ordering from GameStop. Why? Because Amazon had pre-order bonuses and Best Buy had pre-order bonuses. They both eliminated them. They both stopped. Yep. Right? You have Prime, you don't get the 20% off no more. They did away with Gamers Unlocked, right? So now the only one that really does anything special is GameStop, right? And they don't really do a whole lot. But I mean, the thing of it is like you're slowly but surely eliminating yourself when the competition is, when they have the competition on the ropes. That's what happens. So we're in a situation where hopefully things get better I don't want to see them go away at all. It killed me when I watched Toys R Us close doors. Yeah. I don't want the same thing to happen at GameStop.
And that's the other thing too. You hear people parrot talking points that they hear some YouTubers say, like, oh yeah, I hate the practices of GameStop, and I'm like, okay, name what practice specifically?
Exactly.
And they can't name it.
No, they can't.
Well, their trade-in is trash. I'm like, you need to stop trying to trade in Assassin's Creed 3 for the PlayStation 3 thinking you're going to get more than a couple cents. That has no resale value.
Yeah, or sports games. You know what I mean? I'm going to give you Madden 2018 and expect to get the price of a Madden 2020. Like, no, it don't work like that. Like, what are you doing, man? Yeah,
it's like they don't understand depreciating values. I'm like, come on, now this is economics.
Yeah. Well, most of them are young kids too, and they don't understand how the world works yet. So eventually they'll grow up and they'll realize, hey, you bought this car, you pulled it off the car lot, lost value immediately. And then all of a sudden they go, oh, okay, so this game I bought, it's not as valuable as it was before because of XYZ. Yes, exactly.
Oh, man. Okay, so I guess that was our rant, people. I hope you guys enjoyed it. This is supposed to be later in the video, but, we're on the same wavelength when it comes to this because it's just ridiculous. It is really ridiculous, and you see this constantly, and it just makes me wonder. I'm like, how can you say you hate GameStop, but you've made like 15 videos on it, and each one saying, I'll never shop there again? And yet you did. And then, oh God, the most recent ones I've seen about something, the GameStop toilet, just, the bathroom break. I think you know who I'm talking about. This is a recent video. And I'm like, I can't stand I can't stand when people who don't have any thing to talk about, they just find something that's trending and I'm gonna make a video too about it.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, this past week was YouTube taking away verification on YouTubers. Yeah. It's like, why do I need to know that this channel is verified? Like, if I go to watch PewDiePie, right? Mm-hmm. Well, there's the channel's named PewDiePie. There's clearly PewDiePie. Why does he have to have a check mark next to his name for me to know that's his official channel? Like, it doesn't take much to realize that. I understand Twitter and Instagram because the people aren't in front of, cameras and microphones. Mm-hmm. So it's a little bit more difficult to realize, like, is this the real person or not? Mm-hmm. It's just so weird, man. It's so weird.
It's constantly, I feel like every week there's some type of new drama, and like the retention span of what goes on YouTube, just content creating in general is like a week at most.
Oh yeah.
Because I remember when everybody was on the whole anti-Soulja Boy thing with the Soulja console, and I'm like, if the thing is so bad, why are you buying it to do a video? You're promoting his product,
giving him money to make it. I just was like, this guy's an idiot. I'm not even dealing with him, and I went the other way.
It's so simple. Like,
hey, I hate this guy. This guy is so stupid. Why is he making this game console? It's pirating in it. Oh, by the way, I bought one. We're going to test it out today. Like, what? What are you talking about? It's so stupid.
Oh, okay. So while we're on the topic, I guess I need to ask you this. What do you think of the YouTube channels that will stream like Nintendo Direct or Sony State of Play, and then when it's like they'll stream it, react to it, and then if they get hit with a copyright claim, then they go on and just cry about it. I'm just thinking to myself, for me personally, why would I watch another channel stream something that I could just go to the official channel to watch? I don't get it.
So let me explain how this works, because I do the reactions, right?
Okay, but yours is good. I enjoy yours.
Okay, but the thing of it is I know going in that there's a good opportunity, a good chance that somebody is going to copyright strike it.
Right.
And that's when you turn around and you go and you do breakout videos. Nobody really cares to watch the entire thing in its entirety. That's boring.
Yeah.
But there could be moments that are amazing moments. That's where it's your job as the content creator to break those videos apart and go, okay, this is what was hot. This is what was, the best parts of it. And then that is what is good. Now, there are a few people that are like, hey, I want to watch this person's whole reactions, and that's fine. But it's kind of a catch-22.
Yeah.
I understand to some degree why content providers copyright stuff. And then I don't. Because at the end of the day, like, you're putting out the Nintendo Direct. People are watching the Nintendo Direct. But someone that watches my video is not watching the Direct for the Direct. They're watching for my reaction. So now, it's not okay for you to take my money based upon the fact that it's your content that I'm watching.
Yeah.
Because it's kind of like a fair use type thing.
Yeah.
But I think the biggest issue, and a lot of the companies have kind of backed off that stance. Nintendo was the biggest. Nintendo has completely backed off. But like Square Enix and Pokemon Company, like, they're going to hammer you all day long.
Yeah.
But we kind of, like, as YouTubers, we kind of know that. Where my biggest issue is, this is the biggest issue right now that's happening. It's not so much of that stuff. The biggest issue right now that's happening is there are YouTube channels out there that offer a service, and that's royalty-free music. Well, what they've started doing is they're offering this royalty-free music, and then this jerk-off named Hawk, it's Haawk, is basically going in and filing copyright claims on all these videos. I get a new claim every single day from videos I put up months ago. YouTube won't even discuss it with you. They're like, hey, this is a dispute. We're not getting involved. When it clearly states in the royalty-free thing that if you use our music, give us credit for it, and then you're good to go. These guys are just blanketing, going like, hey, you had 10 seconds worth of our music. We're taking the whole video thing. So that to me is the real crime, where you offer this service, people are taking advantage of it, and now you're kind of reneging on it and going back on it and going like, no. We're now going to now going to basically take it and take the money for it and stuff, because it's not even happening like right away. It's happening months down the line. So I've just basically started to go in, because luckily for me, what it is and where they're getting me personally is I used to have music that played before my stream started. Mm-hmm. If I was live streaming something, or I was going to do a live podcast, I would have this music playing with a static image that just said like starting soon, right? Mm-hmm. And one of the songs in that loop they were grabbing. So I've just basically gone and said, okay, you want to play this game? Fine. I'll edit the video down to cut that out and then re-upload it. And YouTube's a little bit better with that, where it doesn't take much to re-upload it. It's just like a click of the button. I get like, I know as a viewer, it's frustrating to watch YouTubers complain about, hey, they took my copy, they took my claim, they took my copyright, they took my video, whatever it might be. Mm-hmm. I think ultimately what the problem is this. We're all doing this, right? And yes, it's for fun, okay? Mm-hmm. But you got to remember, on the big grand scheme of things, like this microphone, it's $100-something microphone. Mm-hmm. My headset, I got Beats, $120 I paid for them, right? Mm-hmm. They're $300, but I got them on sale, $120. My shelving behind me, my lights behind me, my computer, my webcam, my monitors here, that all costs money. You know what I mean? And when I started out, I just had like my cell phone and crappy lighting. Mm-hmm. And as I progressively made a little bit of money off of YouTube, I reinvested all that money back into equipment like boomsticks and microphones and headsets and computers and all that stuff. And that's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to progressively try to get better as time goes on. And how do you do that? You reinvest your money. So I understand both sides of things. Mm-hmm. I understand from the fan that is listening to somebody complain, and it's like, man, you're making money just doing a stupid video. Like, shut up. I get that. But then I also understand from the other side where it's like, yeah, it's not a lot of money. But you know what, man? I'm busting my butt. You know, like, you were fortunate enough to quit your day job. I work 60 hours a week. So I work 60 hours a week at my day job, and then I come home and record content at night. Mm-hmm. And the truth of the matter is that, like I said earlier on, like, I'm no longer married. Mm-hmm. My content that I created took a toll on my marriage, and it fractured the marriage and was a catalyst to us divorcing. Mm-hmm. Obviously, there were other things involved, but it was a big part of what happened. So it's like, man, if I'm losing my marriage, I'm losing, all this sleep and all this stuff in order to produce content, like that 20 cents that they just stole from me, it adds up, and it means a lot. And it doesn't sound like a lot, but all them 20 cents is $1 here, there, it adds up. And if it makes a difference of me getting a brand new webcam or me getting something else to improve my quality, that's what fans should understand and go, hey man, I'm here to help support you and push this narrative that, like, you're not just a scumbag looking to make $1 or whatever. Because granted, we would all like to do this for not have a day job and do this. It would be wonderful, but we're not all fortunate enough to be that and take off like that. So we scrape and scrimp our nickels and dimes together in order to upgrade our stuff and do other stuff. You know what I mean? Like, don't get me wrong, like, the money that I make off, the little bit of money that I make off YouTube or Twitch or any of that stuff did not pay for anything I bought on Friday. That was my day job. But, the things that YouTube and stuff does afford me helps me pay for my cable bill or, my internet, and, helps me pay for if I want to get a game that I need to stream, I can take that money and use it towards that. So it helps and benefits on those ends. But I get what you're saying. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, hey, all you're doing is watching this video. Why are you complaining that somebody took it? And I think it's big picture, because the production and the prep that goes into that, like, not everybody. I'm not going to say everybody, because there's people out there that just slap stuff together, and it's just like, okay, why are you complaining? You know what I mean? But then there's people that go in and they do nice overlays, and, so there's prep work, and they do nice thumbnails, and they do, they're actually sitting there thinking about what they're going to put in for tagging stuff and the titles of the videos so it doesn't come off like clickbait and all this stuff. And there's people that really take time and put the effort into everything. Mm-hmm. When they get pounced on, it's a little disheartening, and that's what I think where it all comes from. So.
Well, I should have prefaced it. I know a lot of content creators that they don't do anything other than just take the feed and just run it in, and it's like there's no difference between, because like a lot of them, they don't even have reactions. They just re-stream like I've seen
re-uploads trash. I don't support that at all. If you're just basically taking the content and re-uploading it and then acting like you put it up, absolutely they should steal it. Absolutely not steal it. It's theirs. They should get to take it. Yeah. But when you're putting something over top of it or changing it, that's different. But when you're just re-uploading, because I see that all the time. Prime example is Game Explain. I'll just say it straight out. Game Explain.
I was about to go in. Listen,
dude, they straight up put trailers all over their website.
Yeah.
All over their website. And by the way, Andre, the reason why he got what he got was that he lied to YouTube. He basically said that he had rights to upload stuff from Nintendo when he didn't at the time. You can go back and listen to old podcasts where he says that, where he didn't have the rights to do it, and he lied to YouTube and said that he had permission by Nintendo, but they never checked it, and they just let it all go through. And while all these other people were getting hit with copyright claims, Andre's videos were all white flagged because of that. And then he blew up, and then he just kept doing what he was doing. Now, listen, if you can get away with it and you could do what you could do, more power to you. I'm not going to hate the game. I'm not going to hate the player. I'm not going to hate the game. Like, you just played the game to perfection. I give you credit for that. But at the same time, like, when he does complain about stuff, it's like, well, man, you did get by with one months ago. Just take a deep breath.
Oh man, I have a lot of feelings about Game Explain, the enthusiasts. Majority Nintendo channels I have slight issues with. Not yours, I love you.
But you better not have one. Man. I'll be like, Devin, you set me up, man. Why did you put me with this guy?
but it's like it's a lot of it. Like I just in content creation in general, like transitioning over to being a content creator full time has been something I've wanted to do for the last 2 years, and the fact that I've done it, and I couldn't do it without my wife. Like I'll preface it by saying like I'm not making anywhere near what I used to make in IT, but my wife's like she got my day job actually became almost a catalyst for us almost divorcing. Yeah. Because at the hospital I worked for, I was working anywhere from 80 to nearly 100 hours a week because I was on call 24/7. I didn't have a backup, and it got to the point where I wasn't seeing my wife for maybe a week at a time. And so she's like, okay, something's got to go. And it got to a point where, like, when I'm driving home, I'm falling asleep at every stoplight. I fall asleep with the keys in the ignition, the windows up at home, and she's like, no, it's affecting your health. So, and I've already, like, I've been through cancer once before, and
oh wow,
I see my doctor. She's like, we don't need you to relapse, anything like that.
Yeah,
remission for the last 3 years. So let's just keep it that way. You may need to let this job go. And things, went into effect to where I, say some bullshit happened in my job where I got thrown under the bus for someone who wanted to who was in the wrong, but they wanted to throw me under the bus to make themselves look good. And that was just a catalyst. I was like, fuck this. I'm not taking this shit. I'm quitting. And my wife, she's working her ass off at this point, but she's like, you should do this, do your podcast, do your streaming, these companies. The last couple of weeks I've been doing this. It's content creation. Anyone, and I've seen people say, oh, doing YouTube, doing content creation, doing podcasts, it's easy. Anyone can do it. Yeah, anyone can do it, but not many people can be successful.
Yeah.
It's work. You know, especially like you said, you know, you work 60 hours a week and you come home and do that. It's work.
Tough.
It's
It's a lot. It's a lot.
But you know, I completely, we skipped over all the other topics I wanted to ask you. I wanted to ask you, like, how you got into gaming? Was it Nintendo?
Wow. Hey, you did skip over, huh? That should have been like 40 minutes ago.
Right?
Yeah, I mean, it was ultimately, you know what I mean? Like, I was a kid who grew up playing Atari. That was my first console as a kid, Atari 2600. And then when my cousins got an NES, my mom got me a 7800, and because that was backwards compatible to the 2600. And I don't think they understood that, like, Atari was just garbage compared to Nintendo and what Nintendo was doing. So I got that short of the stick. And then, like, after begging my mom, I finally got an NES. And that was, like, to me, as a kid, it was game changing. It was life changing, you know, because you go from this thing where you can't even make out what characters are when you're playing a game, and the sounds are so elementary, and it's just so real bad. And, you know, then you get to these Nintendo games, and it's like full on music and just really great adventures and all this crazy stuff. And it just became something that just consumed my life, you know, where I was at school, I was thinking about it, you know, me and my friends, we were on the lunchroom table, the cafeteria table, talking about it. And I go home, my buddies, we'd all start playing. And, you know, it's just, I loved it, you know. But the thing was like, my parents didn't let me play all the time. Like, kids today, like, they literally come home from school, they just lock themselves in a room and that's all they do. We weren't allowed to. We weren't allowed to.
We weren't.
No, I was like, dude, you go outside and play. Like, rainy days, come on. I was 13 years old. I was working for my grandfather. My dad was like, you're going to work for your grandfather this summer. You're going to work 3 days a week. My dad also worked for my grandfather. And after about, like, a month of working for him, your eternal clock just starts to wake you up at a certain time. So it was my day off, right? And I just wake up at like 5, right? And I'm sitting in the bedroom and I'm playing video games, right? I'm playing Nintendo. I'm like, I got the day off. I'm going to sit here all day and play Nintendo, right? And I'm playing and I'm dressed and I'm laying in, and my dad opens the door. He's like, all right, let's go. I'm like, let's go. What are you talking about? I didn't say it to him, but I'm thinking it. I'm like, okay. And I get up and I walk out to the car and he's like, gets in the truck. He starts driving to work. I'm like, what the heck is going on? Like, today's my day off. What the heck's he doing, right? So then we drive to work. We get like 3/4 of the way there, and he's like, where's your lunch pail? I'm like, home? He's like, why didn't you bring it? And I'm like, because I'm supposed to be off today. And he's like, why didn't you tell me that? And I was like, I don't know. I thought you wanted me to do something. He's like, well, you're going to work today anyway. He's like, you work today. He goes, no, you're not getting tomorrow off. And he's like, my day off gets taken from me. And then, like, so after that, like, I wouldn't get out of bed till he left on my days off. And then when he left, then I would get up and do my stuff. Oh, I was so mad that day. I was like, what a jerk. So yeah, but yeah, the NES was my be all end all. And it was like, you know, I could respect what Sega was trying to do. But I just don't think they were ever able to accomplish it. And there's a lot of people that will talk about how wonderful Sega games are and all that stuff. But I just don't see it. I just don't get it. For me, you know, coming from a different era and seeing the drastic changes that Nintendo was able to do, and then even with the Super Nintendo, like, it was just unbelievable. And it was just a very special time. Because I remember being a kid for Christmas wanting Super Mario Bros. 2 or Zelda 2, The Adventure of Link, and, like, not getting it for Christmas because they were sold out for months on end. I remember trying to get an NES and finally getting my mom to agree to get us one, and then waiting 6 months to get it because we were literally calling the store every single day and they were sold out. and we couldn't get it. And then one day I just happened to call a store. They just got a shipment in and had a couple left. We drove over there to go get it. And it's like, nowadays, I think kids are just so used to, like, dude, to think about it. Like, I literally had the collector's edition of Link's Awakening in the mail. And then I was like, well, you know what? I want the digital copy too. So I bought the digital copy and had that downloaded. By the time I got home from work, I just started playing. And that wasn't the way it was when we were kids. You know, when we were kids, like, you had to, like, beg, steal, do whatever to play a game on release. We didn't know what release dates were. We just heard this game might be out, and you get to the store, and if it was there, it was there. But totally different ball game, man, back then.
I'm so jealous. My copy of Link's Awakening, Amazon lost it. I'm so mad at Amazon lately because
Amazon is a mess.
They are. Every game I pre-order with them, they end up losing. Like, was it Fire Emblem 3 Houses? I pre-ordered a collector's edition for that, and two, one for me and one for my wife. They lost it, and I'm very grateful. I know one of the people at Nintendo because he reached out to me on Twitter. He's a guy who actually is from Hawaii, and he's like, Mekel, you're not streaming 3 Houses? I'm like, yeah, it's about that. I said, Amazon lost my pre-order. He's like, what? He said, give me your address. And next thing I know, I got it sent to me. I'm like, oh God, thank you. but yeah, you know, touching on what you said though, man. Like, I remember back in the day where you got a game, it was usually your birthday or Christmas.
Yep. That's it.
It was one of the two, and it's like, especially growing up in the 80s. You know, and in the 90s, it was a different ball game. Like, there was no console or gaming company that really had consistency. And we can zero this down to, like, consoles. There weren't any that produced quality after quality after quality title and hardware like Nintendo. Sega with the Master System, the Genesis, Saturn. Well, actually, no, I'm skipping. That was the 32X. That was a
Sega CD.
It's you know, and in kids these days, they don't even understand that back then gaming was the Wild Wild West because you had Sega, you had Panasonic, you had 3DO, you had PC Engine or the Turbo Graphics. You had at least 15 different consoles.
Yeah,
and I can only imagine back then being a parent, like trying to figure out what's actually a good console to get for my kid, what's going to stay around because everything was coming and going.
Yeah,
you know, it's
See, what kids, and the other thing too is like what kids don't understand now is like when we used to go to this movie theater, which was an arcade, and your home console gaming was never on par with the arcades. It was close, but it was never what it was. So we used to go to the arcades to play to get the experience that kids get today. And the experience we get today is so far well beyond what they were doing in arcades. It wasn't even funny. But it always makes me wonder, like, you know, Capcom and them guys would create games for arcades, and then they'd work on porting that stuff over to the home console. And it just makes me wonder, like, man, what could arcades be like if these game companies actually produced games, cabinets for the arcades? Obviously, the business structure is so far well removed that it doesn't work. But man, that was so much fun. That going to the arcade and like, I remember like the lines to play NBA Jam or Street Fighter, and like you go out there with your friends, man, and like you have like lines of people that was like, if you won, you stayed on the system, you stayed on, and the next person came in, they'd have to, and you would sit there hopefully for an hour on 50 cents if you could, and if you sucked, well, you were like back of the line, like there you go. But it was like so amazing to play. And like the way people stream today, where they had these gaming tournaments, that was an arcade. You'd sit in the arcade and there'd be like a crowd around you cheering on as you played. It was just a surreal time, man.
It really was. I'm not gonna lie, I really miss that. Like, I don't miss the conveniences we have now. Like I think they're very great, but like just being a gamer back then and the passion that we as gamers, because we weren't mainstream like now.
Yeah.
You know, it was a fun thing being part of the exclusive clique, whereas now it's like, oh, I'm a gamer. Oh, what do you play? I play Candy Crush. All right. Okay. Game on then.
Listen, don't mock my mom. Right. You back off. You know, it's strange because we look at what we have now, and like I was just talking about this earlier today when I was recording my buddy, and he was upset about the frame rate drops in Link's Awakening. And he's like, "There's no way that this should be. This shouldn't be this way." And I was just like, "Man, we just come from different eras." Because I remember playing the original Legend of Zelda, and that thing just almost stopped to a crawl.
Yeah.
Until you killed one enemy, and then everything sped up on the screen. Mm-hmm. The original Metroid, like you'd be running and jump, and you're slow motion through the air. Mm-hmm. And then you would kill an enemy, or an enemy would dip off the screen, and then it would speed up. And it was like, we didn't complain about that back then. We just thought that was the game.
Yeah.
Like, we didn't know, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And now it's like, these people know frame rates and this and that. And he's like, and I just said to him, like a blip, like a quick blip never bothers me.
Yeah.
If it's a long period, then it's a little bit different. But a quick blip, like, make you blink an eye. You don't even recognize it. I still don't understand a lot of times why people get upset about stuff. And it's like, I don't want to say people are entitled, because it's a trigger word, number one.
I'll say,
and it's not necessarily, and it's not necessarily true in all cases.
Yeah.
But it's just like they kind of they look at it like, I get it. It's a 20-year-old game, 30-year-old game, was originally on the Game Boy. It should run in a particular way on a more powerful console than the Game Boy. Mm-hmm. I get it. It doesn't. Does it make it a bad game? Not at all. No. If that's your only issue with the game, dude, it's a hell of a game.
Yeah.
Like, it's just, whatever. So, what can you do?
And that's just the thing I don't understand at all, man. Like, when I go and I watch a lot of these reviews, like when I watch, and I try not to watch Nintendo Life, but when I watch Nintendo Life, and I hear the guys that they're talking about, oh, the dips in the frame rate, oh, the resolution, it runs at 540p or 720, and I'm like, is the game fun? And I think that's just the disconnect from us as the older generation to this newer generation, because that's what we cared about. Is it fun?
Yeah. Well, I think too, you got to understand too, today's audience, they games are so expensive now. They were expensive when we were kids. Like, I remember paying like $80 for Earthbound and all this crazy stuff. Like,
remember the 64?
Yeah, Final Fantasy 3 cost me like $70. I remember those days, you know what I mean? But still, for kids and college kids, $60 is a lot of money. You know what I mean? Like, a brand new game is the difference between a new game and eating for a week, in college, So I get it. I understand. Like, so they want these experiences to be near perfect. And, not everything is going to be. And you just got to understand it. Like, and I understand why the game reviewer, like Nintendo Life and all that, they're putting that stuff in because, God forbid, they just say like, hey, the game's fun, blah, 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 and then someone buys it and then it is have issues and then they got to take the heat for it. So I would rather them be honest and just come out and tell you everything, but I would like them to look at it and go like, hey man, we're going to tell you everything that the game does and what it doesn't do, but we're going to grade it based on fun factor and stuff like that. Like, nobody has fun factor built into their reviews anymore. It's just strictly, and here's the thing. I don't believe in reviews. Mm-hmm. My belief is listen to people that you feel are like-minded in their games they play and listen to what they say about a game. So what I used to do is, I don't really do it much anymore, but I used to have 4 people that I used to listen to all the time. And that was Per Schneider, Brian Altano, Colin Moriarty, and Greg Miller. And those would be the 4 people that I would listen to. And when any of them recommended a game or said that they really enjoyed a game, I'd go buy that game. And because 9 times out of 10, listening to their recommendations, I was going to love the game. Now I don't really listen to them that much, the group of them. The only one I really listen to is Colin and Pear and Brian whenever Brian's on MVC. But I don't really listen to Greg that much anymore because he's don't really do a lot of Nintendo stuff, and I don't really play much PlayStation stuff anymore. So, but that's basically where I would pull all my stuff from, and that's where I would get my stuff. Going to a website to go like, hey, what is this website graded? Or going to Metacritic doesn't appease me, doesn't make me happy, because notoriously they are going to say something that I just don't agree with and I don't believe in. It's like, you look at movie reviews, right? And Rotten Tomatoes could be like a critic review of like 10 and then like a fan review of 90. And it's like, well, who's right, who's wrong? I don't know who's right, who's wrong. But did I go in and did I enjoy the movie? That's what it boils down to. And like, when you get into the whole DC versus Marvel stuff, right? And it's like, well, this one does this and this one does that. And like, man, listen, let me explain something to you. You're going to tell me that it's not believable that Batman got mad at Superman and then like he's fighting him and then he stopped getting ready to kill him because the one dude brought up Martha and that was his mom's name and this one and that's your that's your hang up in the movie? Dude, it's a movie about 2 guys that are superheroes dressed like Halloween. One's flying, one's a billionaire, and like suspend your belief of reality the minute you walk in the theater. And just try to have a little fun with something once in your life. And if you walk away and you don't have a good time, that's fine. But if you do, just be honest and say, hey, I had a good time. Don't try to nitpick and break the movie apart. Yeah. Same thing with games. It's okay to like stuff. You don't have to break everything apart and try to destroy it.
Yeah. And I feel like we could talk for hours. But people, I just want to say I agree with everything he just said right here because this is so true. And it's just some things, and I see people do reviews now, like even for me, like I get a lot of flack. I've actually gotten a lot of flack for a lot of my recent reviews I've done as far as video and written reviews because people say I'm not critical enough. And I'm like, well, I will mention that there are some issues that I ran into or that might be there. But my whole thing is it fun? And it's like when I reviewed, what's one of the recent games I reviewed? River City Girls. And a lot of people were saying like, oh, well, that game is, it's repetitive. It's this, it's that. I'm like, yo, I grew up with side-scrolling brawlers or belt scrollers, as we used to call them back in the day.
Yeah.
The beat 'em ups. Like, I had fun with that. Yeah, they're repetitive, but what game isn't repetitive?
Yeah.
Everything has a formula. I know I have a friend that was complaining about Gears of War 5 saying like, oh, well, I just feel like I've been here, done that. I need a new IP. And I'm like, dude, appreciate the fact that they were able to keep the franchise going. How many franchises aside from Mario and Sonic can still stay around to this day?
Yeah.
Not many.
No. Not at all. Not at all.
But so I wanted to ask you about podcasting. So we mentioned Nintendo Talk, and if we ran Nintendo, which I highly recommend you guys go and if you haven't listened to it. If you haven't watched it, please go and watch it because it's literally it's the especially with if we ran Nintendo, the back and forth between you and your co-host is awesome. I like the different perspectives. I like how you guys are such a cohesive unit. And I just have to ask you, man, like how, when it came to podcasting, it's like you said earlier, like, understanding the RSS feed and all the other stuff like that. It is not easy, but it's like once you get bitten by that bug, you get the bug for it.
Yeah.
It's an addiction, but let's talk about it, man.
So, I mean, like for me, it's just a matter of like, as far as like my hosts and stuff, right? So my co-hosts, I started with Toby on Nintendo Talk, but we had different shows. We've evolved the show multiple times. We've rebranded the show multiple times. But the chemistry between Toby and I, like, that's the thing. Like, I feel like it's crazy as to say this. Like, I feel like the chemistry between Toby and I when we podcast is like no other. And then with Sean and I on If We Ran Nintendo, like, we get along really well, but with him and I, it's all business. We go in there and we banter and we goof in the beginning, but once that podcast starts, we're a dead serious, like, I get very serious with that. And I start to, like, because I feel like what the idea, the premise is If We Ran Nintendo. So the idea, the premise is like, what would we do if we ran Nintendo? How would we do it differently? And it's not just a matter of like, hey man, would you bring back the virtual console? Yes. No, we don't just do that. We look at it from a business aspect of like what you do, what you don't do. Like today we did a topic. So with the Switch Lite, it's a handheld only mode, right? The Switch itself is handheld and TV mode. So the topic was, would you do a strictly television mode of the Switch where you don't disconnect it and take it with you? It just locks in and that's what it is. And it was like, so we give our ideas of like what we want, but then it was like, but wait a minute, as a business, does it make sense? Does it make sense to limit yourself to just one thing on that aspect? You're just limiting yourself to one market. Japan ain't going to buy that thing. Like it's not going to sell in Japan. The Switch Lite, they're going to eat it up in Japan. They're not going to buy it as much in the United States. So you got to look at it and say, what's the good and what's the bad, and you break it. And that's basically what the show is in a nutshell. And, you know, it started out of the Wii U era because Nintendo was doing everything wrong with the Wii U. Yeah. And we got tired of, like, constantly listening to people going, like, oh, Nintendo's stupid. They shouldn't. I don't know why they're doing this. And finally, it's just to the point, like, okay, rocket scientist, what would you do? Like, you're quick to call them dumb. And you're quick to say that they're idiots for doing this. What would you do? Because nobody would explain what they would do. So during that era, it came off real condescending, like If We Ran Nintendo. But it was more or less like, no, we love Nintendo. And this is what we would do. Like, we don't agree with this decision by Nintendo, but this is what we would do if we ran it. And 9 times out of 10, they do the exact opposite of what we would do, and that's fine. We don't care. It's not about that for us. You know, Sean and I have this catchphrase I always say when people say, like, oh, you think you can run Nintendo? Like, come on. I'm like, listen, we're not even qualified to run a lemonade stand, let alone Nintendo. Like, we don't know what we're talking about, but we're just having fun with it, you know? Yeah. And but the aspect is like, it's tough with podcasts because it's like so many people are doing them. And what works and what doesn't work, and what's the right RSS feed and right host and all that stuff. And it's like, I've gotten to the point where like I run my own stuff. Like I have Squarespace, I have my own stuff, I have my own RSS feeds. It allows me to do multitude of podcasts, which I do at any given time. I could just change up and add a podcast and not even think about it, you know. But when you get in with other companies, like, you know, at one time, you know, I was with you know, I was on Stitcher and I was all these other ones, and you know, it gets to be much when you're paying out of pocket for these things. So you always try to look at revenue and what costs and what works and what don't, you know. But at the end of the day, like, the only thing I could say is, like, if it's something you love, something you enjoy, don't be afraid to go figure it out and try it. Go for it. Like, we live in this world where it's real easy to get beaten down and become afraid to try something new, because the first words out of everybody's mouth is, oh, you don't need to do that. There's too many people doing that. Why do you want to do that? It's a waste of time. But like, man, go into it because you love it. And that's the key. I'm going to tell you right now, if you're getting involved with this because you want to be famous or you want to be rich or any of that, man, don't even start. Don't even bother. If you're doing this because you just want to have a good time, because ultimately that's what it boils down to, right? About a month ago, I kind of scaled back on all my other content because I was having some health issues. And the one thing I didn't give up on was Nintendo Talk and If We Ran Nintendo. Because at the end of the day, that was 2 hours a week of me just hanging out with my best friends and talking to them. And take away all the other stuff, and I don't care. Yeah. I could not play games. I cannot do anything. You take away the money. You take away all the aspects. I don't care about it. What I care about is spending my 2 hours a week with my two best friends and talking to them. And because when I went through my divorce, both of those guys were the two that had my back, that immediately dropped everything. Like, I remember like yesterday, like I came home, my wife told me she was leaving, and I messaged Sean at 10 o'clock at night, and he was in the middle of giving his son a bath. And he was like, he could sense that something was wrong in my voice. And he was like, he just yelled for his wife and said, take the kid. He said, I'll call you back in 2 minutes. He went downstairs, called me on Skype, and we just sat there for 2 hours. And he sat there while I bawled and cried, and he sat there and listened to me and was just like, what do you want to do? What are we doing? Let's play games. And then that was games are the beginning of the life for me. Like it's the thing that gets me through troubles and hard times. And like, here he is, and let's go play games. So for me, what I realized, and I took the long way to get to this point, is at the end of the day, I do podcasts because I love podcasts and I enjoy doing them, and I enjoy the people that I'm doing them with, and the people that I love doing them with. If you don't have a love for it, when the grind hits in and you have to go do it, you're not going to do it because there's nothing to push you. When there's a day when I don't want to do it and I'm like, oh man, I don't even know what to talk about today. I can't get a topic together. Man, Nintendo is like killing it. When we had the Wii U, if we ran Nintendo, was easy as hell because we were just picking that thing apart every week and having stuff to talk about. Right now, the Switch, what do you talk about? Thing is on top of the world, man. Everything they do is gold. Yeah. It sells good. What are you going to make fun of Labo every week? It don't work that way, you know? So when it's tough, it's like you got to love it because you got to love going. And that's the thing. Like, I love my co-host, so I love going in and talking to him. And like, you know, me and Sean said today, like, man, it's becoming tough to come up with topics. And I'm like, dude, I don't care. Well, I'll just sit here and talk to you for an hour. I care less. Like, just have a good time, you know? And it's what it boils down to. It's just a good time and having fun. So that's basically where it's at.
And I love that story too, because it's so true. It really does, when it comes down to something you're truly passionate about, something you enjoy, you know, regardless of the good or the bad, stick with it, you know. And that's one thing that, you know, I have many things in common with you. I think you and I have a lot in common as far as our gaming taste and love for Nintendo and just understanding the business aspect of, you know, gaming. But it's, when it comes to podcasts, I'm the same way, man. Like, when I was, you know, going through all the bullshit with my job, and this last year, you know, even when I wasn't consistent with putting up YouTube videos or streaming or any of that, I could, you know, I'm the same as you. I could drop all that. But podcasting, it's just something about it, you know, when I get to interact with the guests. Like, I don't care. They could be, you know, another content creator. It could be a podcaster. It could be a voice actor. It doesn't matter. It's just, I love engaging with someone else, where I get to either, you know, see them via Skype, you know, as we're looking at each other now, or, you know, just talking to, just a conversation, just being able to get behind the mic and just talk, you know, ask questions, have a organic flow of a conversation. It's just, there's nothing like it, you know. And it's
exactly,
it honestly, it became therapeutic for me. So
it happens.
So, I guess one of the last questions I want to ask you is, you know, since congratulations in the last couple of weeks, the last couple of months, you've become the community manager for Tui. So how did that come about, and how does it feel working for a gaming company?
Okay, so that came about, so what happened was I had met, it's weird. I was playing SteamWorld Dig on the 3DS, right? And that's made by a company called Image and Form. Mm-hmm. And I was sitting in my car playing the game, and all of a sudden it hit me. Dude, I'm playing Metroid. Like, this is Metroid again. And it took me back to being 15 years old playing this game. So I pick up my phone and I send a tweet out saying, like, oh my God, I'm playing this game, SteamWorld Dig. You guys gotta play it. I love this game. It means the world to me. Thank you, Image and Form, for this game. They fire back a tweet back. We start talking back and forth, and then we get into DMs, and we start talking all the time, right? Mm-hmm. So a couple of months go by. We're still friends. We're talking all the time. And I said, or Julius, the community manager of that company, says, hey, man, Brian is in North Jersey. You're in Jersey. He would love to see you. He gives me Brian's phone number. Brian's the owner of Image of Form. So I go up to North Jersey to meet him, and I play a game called SteamWorld Heist at the time. Mm-hmm. So then from that, Brian and I kick it off. We hit it off really well. So then that year, Nintendo has their Treehouse Live. And during the Treehouse Live, they bring on a bunch of different indie developers. And two of them were Brian from Image of Form and Jules from, at the time, Renegade Kid. Renegade Kid was showing off Mutant Mud's Super Challenge. Mm-hmm. And I, for some reason, like, I'm tweeting out an Image of Form, and I'm talking now also because Brian and Jules are friends. I start talking to Jules, and then Jules starts following me. And then one day Jules just says, like, hey, man, I got a few review codes left. If anybody would like one for Mutant Mud's Super Challenge, please let me know. So I sent him a DM. I'm like, hey, man, I would really like to get a copy. If not, I understand. No hard feelings. But, it'd be cool to review the game. He sends me a review copy. I review the game. I enjoyed the game. And then from there, I asked him to come on. At the time, I had a podcast called The Geekcast, and that's the first one with Toby. And he comes on, we kick it, we have a great relationship. It's like, oh man, this guy's really, really cool. So then, right around the time when it was the NX at the time, not the Switch as we know it, the NX is getting rumored. We bring Jules on If We Ran Nintendo to talk about how Nintendo should strategize moving forward. Like, should they lean on indie developers, or because at the time, the rumor was they're courting the big companies all the time and not really talking to indie developers. So we were just like, hey, how would we handle it moving forward? Jules was very candid, very honest with us, had a great conversation. We then go on to do another podcast, and then, like, we would just, like, kind of talk. Like, occasionally he'd hit me up on Skype and be like, hey, you got a minute? Let's chat. We just jump on, we start talking. And then he would start showing me ideas of games. And I'm like, holy crap, like, this guy, like, trusts me. Like, this is nuts. So then him and I started a show together, right? Now, at the time, I'm still married. Mm-hmm. Him and I started this show called Behind the Scenes with Jules Watcham. And we're doing the show, and then that's when the divorce happens. But him and I are talking almost every week, a couple times a day or a couple times a week. We're chatting. And then I had to stop the show because I was leaving my house and moving back in with my mom, and I wasn't going to do anything for a while because I didn't have the space to do it. And he messaged me, and he's like, hey, man, would you like to come to E3 with me this year? And I was like, yeah, man, are you nuts? Like, of course. So we go to E3, and we go out there. We spend the whole, 3 or 4 days together. He's introducing me to all these people. We're hanging out every night, having drinks with different developers and all this stuff, and having dinners with all these different people, and it was just a great time. Come back home. We keep talking, hanging out, and then one day, he kind of has an issue on Twitter where people start attacking him for some things. He was defending someone else that he was friends with, that I was friends with, and the mob turned on him and started going after him. Yeah. And so he backed away. And he stopped doing anything on Twitter. He basically backed away from social media and just concentrated on his business, and that was it. That goes on for about 6-8 months, and then he contacts one day, it was a Saturday, and he's like, hey, man, can we talk? And I was like, yeah, sure, absolutely, man. I get off work at this time. I'll call you. So I get off work, and I call him, and Jules is like, hey, I got this idea, man. I really need someone to take over my social media and all this stuff for a TUI. Are you interested? I'm like, are you kidding me, dude? Absolutely. I'm like, so I said to him, let's do this. Let's give it 2 days. This was a Saturday. I said, let's wait till Monday night. Monday night, let's do a Skype call. I will come to you with a bunch of ideas that I have and thoughts that I have of what we should do. And then you can listen to them and you can tell me whether or not you agree with them or you think that I'm not right for the job. And then at that point, if you feel comfortable enough to keep going with the job, then let's do it. So we fast forward to Monday. I come in, I sit down, I have all these ideas, I throw them at him. He's like, "You got the job, you're in." And you know, it's been like that since. We're good. We're really, really good friends, and that works. And his idea was like, "Listen, man, we're a small company. You're doing a part-time job for me, essentially. But if this works out, this could become a full-time gig. And how awesome would it be for us to go to E3 together as coworkers and just enjoying life, you know, and just having, and it is a dream come true, man. Like what I started out doing as a podcaster has allowed me to do some crazy dreams I never believed I'd be able to do. You know, if you would have told me that I would have gone to E3 when I was 15 years old, I'd have said, "You're crazy. There's no way." And I remember reading Nintendo Power the first year that E3 was happening, and how I used to say to my best friend at the time, like, "Dude, I just want to go to E3. I want to go to E3. And then I remember the night that I went to go demo and play SteamWorld Heist, and I got to hang out with Brian, and I'm driving home, and I called my best friend at 15 years old. Him and I would play video games all the time together. We'd sit there and read comic books together and play baseball together, all the stuff we used to do together. And I called him up, and I'm like, "Dave, dude, I just did something that you and I used to talk about when I was 15 years old." And I was like, or when we were 15. And I was like, and that was, I got to go hang out with a guy that makes video games and play his demo. And he was showing me the game and how it works. And this game is going to be awesome and all this stuff. And we just like shared a moment together. And then like now, you know, I remember him and I sitting there going like, "Man, wouldn't it be cool to make video games one day?" Now I'm not making the games, but I'm working for a company that makes the games. And it's like, I'm not talented enough to make games or do anything like that. But you know what? I am talented enough to do what I'm doing. And that's just basically running social media, coming up with clever ideas, stupid ideas to get people talking about a game, an upcoming game and all that stuff. And it's fun, dude. And it's a blast. And I get to do it with one of my best friends, Jules Watcham. And I'm sitting here going like, dude, this is stuff that I dreamed about when I was a kid. Right. And it all boils off of podcasting. Podcasting started it all. And it's like, I get all the time. I get people like sending me codes. I don't even ask for them. And it's like, this is just amazing to be at this position where people reach out to you to say, "Hey, we want you to review your stuff. We saw your video the other day. We love this video." And like, when that stuff starts to happen, it's a mind fuck, but it's a great thing, man. And it just makes you go like, this is amazing. Like this little thing that I do is actually blossoming into something, and it means the world. So for me to be able to get to the point where I am now working for a company that A, I respect, and B, I'm in the game industry now. And it's like crazy. And the funny thing is like when he came to me, he was like, "Listen, I'm not looking to hire Bobby. I'm looking to hire the Nintendo guru. I'm not looking for you to do anything differently than you do on your own social media. I've been watching you for a year. I like what you do. I like the community that you created. That's what I'm looking to do over here." And so it was like everything that I've been doing for the last 4 years, the positivity, the being nice to people and all that stuff I talked about earlier on in the show. You do that stuff, it translates and good things happen. You know, if I'm a negative jerk off, dude, it's just going to be what I bring on, and it's just going to be I'm around. So you just got to be good to people, be nice to people, be kind to people, and good things open up and happen for people. And it's just, you know, but the feeling of being able to do something that I love or that I've wanted to do is, dude, it's mind blowing. It's such an amazing feeling.
Man, that's inspiring, because it's like, and again, see, this is where you and I, again, another similarity, just because like podcasting has allowed us to work with the gaming industry. Like I got to go to E3 this year for the first time ever. And I'm the same as you. Like I remember reading about E3 in magazines, and then like watching the YouTube videos like when it started doing that years ago. And it's like to be able to go there. I got sent to E3 by PDP, or Performance Design Products, and I had the badge. I got to go around. I got to, free entry and everything, and it was crazy. I'm like, I always wanted to do this. Hey, I'm talking to Doug Bowser. Oh my God, I'm talking to this person. Hey, that developer's here. Like it's something I tell other YouTubers who just sit and watch it on YouTube and other creators. I'm like, until you've gone to E3, you really don't know this experience. It's way different being there than it is watching trailers.
Yeah.
And it's just, being able to, podcasting, just like I said, this little thing, podcasting has opened so many doors. Working with, like, I know a lot of people in the gaming industry, and one thing I'll tell the audience, the industry is very, very small, and be very respectful to everyone. Even if you think people aren't respectful to you, be respectful, because you don't want to get 86. It's true. It's really easy to do that in the gaming industry. But yeah, man, like it's in the same as you. Like, I get codes, like, half the time I don't even request a code, and they're like, oh, here you go, and I'm like, all right. Oh man, like, okay. So last question I gotta ask you, because I know we're running a little bit over, but what advice would you give to the community here in the audience, and your and fans as well, that would like to either get into the gaming industry, get into podcasting, or both?
So it's simple. It's real simple. If I can do this, any idiot can do this. Like, I am the biggest moron in the world. So if I can figure it out, you can figure it out. So if you're listening to me right now, it's the God's honest truth. Trust me. So if you're listening right now and you want, and this has been a dream, you can make it happen. It's real simple. Anything you want to learn about, it's on YouTube. Just look it up. If you want to learn how to get an RSS feed, there's somebody to teach you how to get an RSS feed. You want to know what microphones to use, there'll be somebody on there to teach you the microphones. You want to do cameras, there's people to teach you how to do cameras. Everything is available at your hands. Just do the research. That's number one. Number two, just start. Just start doing it. You're never going to have the right lighting. You're never going to have the right microphone. You're never going to have the right camera. You're never going to have the right computer. You're never going to have the right chair. You're never going to do the right games. None of that. Just start. Just do something. Number three, when you talk to the camera, when you talk to the microphone, treat it like you got 1 million people listening. Even though you got 5, maybe 10, maybe 20, maybe 100. Whatever your number is, doesn't matter. Your number is huge for you. And always treat it like you have a lot, because eventually you will get a lot. And when you get a lot, you want to be able to talk to them just like you do all the time. If you wait until you get a lot to start talking to them like you're a lot, then you're starting your practice for talking to a lot of people. If you start from day one and you're talking to the camera like you got 50,000 people watching you, well, guess what? When you get to 50,000 people, it ain't going to be a big deal from you. The number's never going to upset you, never going to scare you. Always practice. Number 4, love it. Love it. Whatever you do, be in love with it, because the hard days are going to come. And it's easy when you're getting all the praise and you're getting all the love and everybody's watching your content and talking about your content. But there's a lot of days when nobody talks about your content and nobody's watching your content, and you just got to figure out, how do you get up the courage and the strength and the mental stability to go record. That's the days that you need to be in love with what you're doing, because if you're not, you're going to quit, and then all this is a waste. Number 5, final thing, don't spend a lot of money on equipment.
Yeah.
Start small. Make sure you love what you love before you go dropping thousands of dollars on equipment. Make sure that, because here's the thing. I'll just toot my own horn. I feel like I have some of the best production value on the internet when it comes to my cameras, my overlays, my audio content, the sound, all that stuff. I feel like I have some of the best, but I don't have all the views that there's guys that have. They're recording in their car on their cell phone, and I'm like, what the hell? How does this guy got thousands of views? Like, what is going on here? You don't need to have all the bells and whistles to have numbers. Mm-hmm. That doesn't matter. It's the content you're producing. Be original. Be yourself. Be honest to your audience. And I promise you'll be successful. That's all I got.
Man, I don't think you're tooting your own horn, man. You got some damn good production values, brother. I'm just saying.
I try.
Like, I'm over here like, shit, I need to, I'm about to become a patron, man. I need to support this greatness. Speaking of which, people do support them on Patreon. I mean, amazing quality content, great videos, great podcasting, great streams, everything. Again, people, go and follow them. I'm leaving all the links to everything that Nintendo Guru is working on and is part of in the description of the video and the podcast. Is there anything you want to leave the audience with aside from that? No, I've said all I have to say.
Only thing I will say is this. I say that, and then I go into a spiel. You got to remember, you can't give me the mic and let me. I like to talk. First, thank you for asking me to come on the show. I appreciate it. It's been a lot of fun. I'm not going to thank Delvin Cox for recommending me because that's giving him too much credit. Don't listen to anything that Delvin Cox does. The Delvin Cox Experience is the worst podcast in the world. Just kidding. I love it. It's a great show. And my final thing that I say in all my stuff, peace out, Preston. That's all I got.
Hey, I actually lied. I got one final question for you.
Oh, here we go.
How much fun did you have today? Did you have fun?
None. No fun at all. It was horrible. It's the worst hour of my life. I've been sitting here the whole time going, man, it's got to end soon. When's this going to end soon? No, just kidding. I had a blast.
Oh, man. Thank you so much, Bobby, for coming on the show. And this episode will be available at some point in the future. Probably very, very soon. It could be coming the next couple of days. It could be tomorrow. It could be the next hour. We don't know. And with that being said, people, you can catch the Kasanova Podcast, #1 podcast in Hawaii on... Good God, I need to have like a pre-cut thing because I keep forgetting what all we're on. But anyway, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Google Play Music, Stitcher, Spotify, TuneIn Radio, and something else. But I kind of want, if you really want to catch the podcast, just go to MikelKasanova.com. It's hosted there. And it's one of the things I wanted to touch on with you earlier, and I forgot. I'm very forgetful. But what you were saying earlier about having a, hosting your own stuff, doing your own RSS feed, is so much fun.
Yeah.
But yeah, people, with that being said, Bobby and I are signing out. Hey, did you enjoy this episode of the Kasanova Podcast? Well, I'm sure you did. And since you did, and you're wondering where else you can find it, you can find it on every podcasting outlet. Yes, that includes Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, TuneIn Radio, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Launchpad DM by Podcast One, and so much more. And the only thing I ask of you is if you truly enjoyed it, even if you didn't enjoy it, please leave a rating and tell us what you thought of it, what you like, what you didn't like, and everything in between. And also, if you're looking for video formats of this podcast and many more, you'll be able to find them on youtube.com/MikelKasanova, as well as on twitch.tv/MikelKasanova, and new episodes every single Monday morning, 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So, with that being said, this is Mekel Kasanova, Hawaii's favorite YouTuber. I am signing out. You guys have a great one.